So I identified myself, gave her some commands, and she turned and faced me. She started advancing towards me. I gave her multiple verbal commands to stop and drop the hatchet. She refused to do that, and then I ended up shooting twice. One round went in and out of her leg, and the other round kind of hit her right here in the sternum, and she fell to the ground.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, a free safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Rennebaum, suicide attempt survivor and a recovering substance abuser. Welcome to another incredible episode. This week I'm speaking with Captain Adam Myers. Now, a few weeks ago, I spoke with a lovely lady named Sheila who lost her son in a police shooting as they were coming to do a welfare check. This episode is kind of the other side of that. Captain Adam Myers was involved in a police shooting where he ended up taking a young lady's life who was having a mental health crisis or episode. People were at risk, people were in danger, and after the shooting, Adam didn't do so well. His mental health declined as well, so we're going to discuss that, what happened, how he's doing now, all the things he did to get better. And speaking of getting better, you can make others' lives better by rating and reviewing this podcast, because by doing that, the podcast then is easier to find in algorithms of podcasts and things. And this is a free mental health service, really, so why not do that? And while you're doing that, I'll introduce my guest. So without further ado, I give you Captain Adam Myers. You were in the military too, right?
I was, yeah. I was active duty military police for 5 years. I didn't go overseas. I didn't see any conflicts or anything like that. I was stationed in Fort McClellan, Alabama for training and for basic training, and then AIT, the MP Academy and training. And then I was stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, which is in El Paso, Texas, right by the Juarez border. And then after that, I moved back home and started applying for police departments.
Are you from a family of police?
I am not. Nope, I'm not. I'm the first cop, so just something that I've always wanted to do ever since I was a little boy.
Are you originally from Wisconsin?
I am, yeah. Born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin, and
I could tell.
Yeah.
You said cap.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that when in eighth grade, we went on an eighth grade graduation trip to Washington, D.C. And when I was there, they said, "You're either from Wisconsin or Minnesota, we can tell." And I had no idea. I was so young. I didn't really know much about accents or anything like that. But I'm like, wow, how did you realize that? And they started explaining as to certain things, that how we talk. And so,
yeah. Sorry, that was a bit of a sidetrack.
No, that's okay. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a police officer. When I was a little boy, I lived on Highway 20 in the city of Racine. That's also called Washington Avenue. And my parents said whenever I heard a siren, I would run up, run through the dining room, run up to the window and look outside and hope to see a police car. And the majority of the time I did. Sometimes it was ambulances, sometimes it was fire trucks, but I was really interested in the police cars. And I called those cars because of the siren. So every time I heard a siren, I'd race to that window and look outside. And my parents said one time I saw a police car stop and a police officer get out. I looked at them and I said, "An car man. I want to grow up and be an car man." So that's what I did. I took certain steps that I thought were necessary to reach that goal of being a car man or a police officer. I graduated from high school. I went to college, and then I went into the military. And when I left the military, I went right back home to Racine and started applying. And I was blessed to get hired by the city of Racine, where it all started, where I was born and raised, where I first started wanting to be a car man, a cop. And I still remember one time when I was on solo patrol after training, I was driving by one of the big windows that they have down at the county courthouse building, and they're really mirrored. And I look over to the side and I can see my squad car, and I'm driving it, and I'm like, wow, I'm really doing it. I'm doing it, and so it's great. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. When you emailed, it was a bit kismet because it was maybe not even a week before I received your email. I had talked to a lady whose 17-year-old son was killed by a police officer during a wellness check.
Okay.
This was in Kansas City, I want to say, somewhere over there. And then I get this email from a cop who has PTSD and is struggling with his mental health because of a death on while in service. I
Right.
don't know what's the technical term, I guess, of that.
Officer involved shooting, or now it's called officer involved death. It used to be an OIS, now it's an OID. At least in the state of Wisconsin, it is. So,
Right. Okay.
yep.
I mean, her story is wildly different. It was inappropriate of how the young person died, but it's weird how the universe kind of
Yeah,
does this to me. but
yeah, you're right.
but as so, yeah, that's fascinating. But please continue. So now then you become an officer in your home city, and
My hometown. I became a police officer in my hometown, and from 2001 until about 2006, and then I left that police department and went to another agency about 3.5, 4 hours away, and worked there for 14 years. And in 2016, I was involved in a critical incident. I used deadly force on a woman who armed herself with a hatchet inside Walmart, and it was on a Friday at 5:15. Very busy, hundreds of people in the store. And what had happened was she was also struggling with some mental health issues. She was a client at a state run facility, and she was out on a good behavior path. She was out with two of her chaperones, and they initially went to a restaurant and then went over to Walmart. And when it was time to leave, one of the chaperones, advised her, "Hey, it's time to leave," and she refused to leave. So that's when they had called 911. Initially, it came in as a 911 hang-up call, but they called 911 because she was refusing to leave, and they had reached out to their supervisors, and because of her history of violence, and she could be very violent, they decided to contact the police, which isn't uncommon. And so what had happened was is the dispatch kept the chaperone on the phone the whole time. And initially, I received the call just to go to Walmart for a person refusing to leave the store. So it was no big deal. We do that all the time. We do that at retail stores. We do that at restaurants. We do that at houses. So my whole thought process was I'm going to go over to Walmart and say, "Hey, you got to leave. You can't be here anymore. Your chaperones want to, bring you back." And so it wasn't very emergent. It wasn't an emergent call. And so I was inside the police department working on a retail theft report when I was dispatched. And then I just grabbed my laptop, walked out of the back of the police department, hopped in my squad car, and started driving to Walmart. And now Walmart is maybe a mile away. It's not that far away. And as I was driving, dispatch, like I said, kept the chaperone on the line and kind of gave me the play by play. And as I was responding, the complaint became more and more emergent. Dispatch advised me that, she's still refusing to leave. She's walking over to the sporting goods section. She's ripping open a knife from the packaging. Now she's in possession of a knife, and that's how it came out first, as a knife. And not to say that was any less threatening, but that's what I thought she had the whole time. And then it went from she is in possession of a knife to now she's threatening customers. She's walking around the store. So that's when it really became emergent. That's when I turned on my lights and sirens, and I began responding a lot quicker to Walmart. Now, I remember when I was responding, a lot of Walmarts are set up the same way. You have the auto center. You can go in the auto center. You can go in one of the two main doors, the grocery or the general merchandise. And I was under the impression that she was still in the sporting goods section, which can be reached by the auto center. So I figured I got on the radio. I let everybody know I'm going to be responding through the auto center. And my thought process was that I could respond and kind of keep her back in that area so she doesn't walk towards the front of the store, hence just isolating her back there and keeping people safe. But while I was driving, while I was responding, dispatch said now she's walking towards the front of the store. So everything kind of went out the window. It's like, well, now I'm going in one of the main entrances. And I remember pulling into the parking lot, and there were people in the parking lot, but they wouldn't get out of the way. They were looking at, my police vehicle, lights and siren, like, "Hey, look, there's a cop." And in my head, I'm thinking, "Will you please move? I got to get in the store. Something's going on." And obviously they didn't know, but
they were like you as a kid, an car.
an car. Yeah. Hey, look at the car. What's going on? So what I did was I pulled up to the general merchandise entrance. I turned my siren off, but left my emergency lights going. And I immediately raced in there. I drew my weapon. I had no idea where she was. I didn't know if she was going to be immediately in the vestibule or if I would make contact with her right away. When I got in there, there was a man and a woman standing there, and I asked them, "Where is she?" And they kind of pointed down towards the health and beauty aisle, the lawn and garden aisle, which is one of the main aisles inside Walmart. So I ran down there and I saw her for the first time. Her back was towards me, and it appeared that she was either punching or hacking up bags of weed and feed on this pallet. So I identified myself, gave her some commands, and she turned and faced me. And that's when I saw it was a hatchet. And I'm thinking, well, that's not a knife. That's actually a hatchet. And she started advancing towards me. I gave her multiple verbal commands to stop and drop the hatchet. She refused to do that. And then I ended up shooting twice. One round went in and out of her leg, and the other round kind of hit her right here in the sternum, and she fell to the ground. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't remember. I remember watching, Walmart has hundreds of cameras in the store, and other officers responding, they had body cameras. I didn't have one at the time, but because this was 2016, we were still in the process of trying to get those. So there's a lot of stuff I don't remember, but watching the videos, it's like, yeah, that's me doing what I was trained to do, but I don't remember doing that. And I remember the gunshots being so loud. It was like a broken speaker, and things were kind of muffled. And the only way that I can explain it, and hopefully your viewers and you'll be able to hear this, but it was kind of like shh, and then everything was clear again. I remember one of the first things I did was I look around to customers, because there were customers around there, and I said, please check yourself, please check each other, because I wanted to make sure my rounds didn't hit her and then ended up hitting anybody else. And then there was a Walmart associate nearby, and I said, please get on the intercom and ask if there's a nurse, if there's a doctor, please have them come over here to kind of assist until the ambulance arrived. I advised dispatch that shots were fired and that I need an ambulance. And after that, it just seemed surreal. I know what I had done, and I know without a doubt I did the right thing. And under the same circumstances, I would do it again. But that day was tragic. I mean, I know that by pulling the trigger, I took somebody's life. Not only did I affect my own life, but other people in the store that witnessed the shooting or maybe even heard it. Maybe they were completely on the other side of Walmart and they had heard it. But, and I decided to pull the trigger. Everything changed. And I don't take that lightly, because every single day of my life since then, I think about that incident. And, I realized that I found out through the investigation that she also had a 6-year-old daughter at the time. I have two daughters. They were young at the time. They're young adults now. So that sat with me as well, knowing that the daughter would never see their mom again, and that her mom would never see her, family and friends wouldn't see her. So I didn't wake up hoping that this was going to happen. I wasn't thinking, I never want that to happen. I always prided myself with being able to talk people down. I've been a police officer for 23 years, and I still haven't pepper sprayed anybody. I mean, I've used my taser a couple times, but I've never pepper sprayed anybody. I've never used my baton on anybody. I've always prided myself with being able to talk people down, but this incident, that just wasn't going to happen. And I had to not only protect myself, but all the other people in the store. And it was just a sad day, no matter how you look at it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine. I mean, I had a job that was, so I'm trying just to slightly relate to something in
oh,
my own
sure.
life.
Yep.
And I used to work at the Humane Society, and like having to euthanize animals. It's like, not only is it, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's damned if you do, it's damned if you don't.
Right.
And so you try to do what's best for
Right.
the greater good, which is still a really, really, really hurtful. And I mean, there's all types of, yeah, it's just oh my God, I'm all over the place.
No, it's okay. No, I mean, I understand what you mean. I mean, this wasn't, a lot of people were like, well, you were in the army. And I'm like, but I wasn't in a war. I've never killed anybody.
Well, even then, like what is,
Right.
like
I'm
that
not,
still doesn't matter.
right. And I don't hunt, and I'm not comparing that to shooting her as a hunting incident, but
Yeah.
this is it's a big deal to me. It's not normal to go to work and to do that in any capacity. If you're a police officer or whatever profession you're in, and I suffered for many years after. So
I'm assuming because this happens with probably almost all officer shootings. Was there a lot of criticism from the public or media or anybody around this? Like, why didn't you use your pepper spray or your, or people that
as
weren't in the situation and think they,
right.
know better?
No, I get what you're saying. There were a lot of comments like on social media and stuff like that, and I tried to stay off that because I am an emotional guy. If I would have read that, it would have really upset me. And I actually have a piece of hate mail here that I'll read.
Oh,
And this piece of hate mail was mailed to the police department without a return address, without a signature, and it talks about pepper spray. It says, "Hey, to the murderous cop, what the hell is your big, strong, armed, trained, macho man bastard serving the community policeman doing shooting and murdering a 25-year-old young lady in a Walmart store? Throw some socks at her, or a chair, or a few pillows, or a bicycle, or some spray or a taser. You son of a bitch, murderous cop. I hope a DUI driver shoots you." And that was sent to. This is obviously a copy, but that was sent to the police department. And I remember my chief at the time telling me, "Yeah, you're getting hate mail, but I'm not letting you read it because I know how you are. You're going to read it and you're going to dwell on it." And he was absolutely right. That piece of hate mail right there, I don't think I read until probably several years after my shooting, when I decided to start speaking about my experience and stuff like that. But there was that, and then we're coming up on April. My shooting happened on April 8th, 2016. So it hasn't happened the last several years. Maybe it will this year. Who knows? But it always seems like right around the anniversary date that I start getting horrible messages through Messenger. People will create a fake Facebook account and then send me a message, and then I read it, and I'm like, initially that really hurt. Now I'm kind of like, not that it doesn't hurt now, and it's not upsetting now. It is, but initially when I got messages like that, it was more upsetting. But what I would do is I would go back, I would try to figure out where it comes from. And then I realized that somebody just created a Facebook account maybe a couple days ago or that day. And so it's just, yeah, I see it for what it is. And there were also many times a year after my shooting, I was promoted to the police department's very first detective. And I do investigations. And there was a guy who I was going to send a ticket to for illegal dumping. It was something very, very simple. It wasn't the crime of the century by any means. But he had posted on our Facebook page that he called me a murderer. He called me a liar. I lie to women. I shoot women. Really profane. And we didn't catch it right away. And that was several years after. So if somebody has that knowledge, sometimes they throw it at me to try to get me upset, and it is emotional. But I'm much better now because of the getting better and getting healthier. So, but initially it was really rough.
Like, you do seem like a very empathetic, very emotional, sensitive guy, and I
Sure.
mean, for someone in the public, that's how I want my officers.
Right.
I mean, there are times where you do need the real macho, goofy
Oh,
guys,
right.
which,
Right.
I mean, I guess you need them as well. They
Sure.
serve a purpose as well, and
Yeah.
all over the place. But
And people know me as kind of being a goofball at times, walking around the police department, making up my own goofy songs, stuff like that. But like you
yeah,
said, I mean, there's a time and place for everything. And that day, that was a lot, like a lot of people tell me, Adam, that was real police work. They needed you there. That wasn't writing a parking ticket. That wasn't catching a speeder. That was, you need to get there because people could die type of complaint. And so it's been rough over the years.
so there was a wellness check done on me. I'm a suicide attempt survivor,
Okay.
and I had a knife. This was in my own house. I'm in Canada. I don't know if you knew that. I'm in Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Uh, my brother got there first. He's a very big guy. And he punched me in the head. He got the knife out of my hand. He got on top of me. And then eventually, I think it was two or three, again, I'm like you. It's a blur. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
at one point, I got my hand out and I tried to pull a cop's gun out of his holster. I was begging them to shoot me, and anyway, I wasn't tasered. I wasn't pepper sprayed. They were able to hog tie me and put me into a place and take me to the hospital.
Okay.
So this is it's kind of near and dear to my heart in a way, these kind of stories. And like I said, I did talk to someone whose son was shot by police, and now I'm speaking to someone who's on the other side of it, and all of them are mental health related, which is
Yeah.
sad because I mean, police officers, whether right or wrong, really shouldn't have to be shooting unwell people.
Right.
I mean, if you're shooting bad guys, that's one thing. But
Right.
and I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying you shouldn't have shot her.
Oh, I
I'm just
understand.
saying
Yeah.
I wish there was better services. I wish the system worked better. That, or maybe the people that took her to Walmart maybe use better judgment, or it's very very unfortunate for everyone.
Right.
Like literally everyone.
Well, I mean, you talk about suicide attempt, and this is a tactical vest that police officers and first responders commonly use, to protect themselves. And this is a removable patch, and so suicide, that was one of the things. I wouldn't say that I attempted suicide, but one of the things that I did when I was struggling, when I was consuming a lot of alcohol, when I was kind of having a pity party for myself, is this is a complete plastic replica of my duty weapon. There's no working parts; it's all plastic. But what I would do is I would feel sorry for myself, and I would remove the magazine, clear the chamber to take the bullet out, and then I would put my gun to my head at least a dozen times. And I have no idea why I did that. Still to this day, I don't know. I know when I did it, I just pulled the trigger because I wanted to hear there's a metallic click when you have a Glock. The Glock is the kind of duty weapon that I had. So I would just do that to hear and feel that metallic click. And today, I have no idea why I did it. A lot of people say maybe you were preparing to do it, but I never really thought I want to die. I don't want to live anymore. I mean, there were some times that I'd go to bed. I'm religious. I'd go to bed and I'd pray to God that please don't let me wake up. Many times, and him and I had many conversations, and they weren't very nice. For many years, I was pissed off at him because I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. Can you either help me not wake up or hit the fast forward button so I can be better? And but for many years I suffered in silence. I poorly coped. I have another patch here, and some of the ways that I poorly coped was alcohol, casual sex, and drugs. And when I say alcohol, I mean I abused alcohol. I have a wine glass, simulated wine glass here, and I'd fill wine into the glass, and then I would take, sometimes I'd take allergy medicine, or you know, NyQuil, or even ZzzQuil here, and kind of make my own cocktails. And there were one time I reached into the medicine cabinet and took my oldest daughter's cough medicine because it was prescribed and it had codeine in it. So it really helped knock me out. And, another way that I cope too is I have a 750 milliliter bottle of vodka. I would drink this within 30 minutes and be blacked out and sleep the day away. It was so when I say I abused alcohol, I did. That's different for everybody. I just didn't have a six pack or a couple shots. I really abused it. And another way that I coped poorly, and this is all self medicating. It's because I wanted to numb the pain. I wanted instant feel good. I wanted instant go away. My feelings, my thoughts, everything was casual sex. I had casual sex with a lot of women. I met them online, and sometimes within 30 minutes we'd be having sex. And that's one of the things that I feel guilt and shame about now because
Sure. Yeah.
I'd meet women online, and sometimes within 30 minutes we'd be having sex. And there was one time I was laying in bed with a woman after we had sex, and sex is supposed to be fun, playful, exciting. At least it is for me. But I was laying there and I'm thinking, what are you doing, Adam? This isn't you. I started not to like who I was. And when I say guilt and shame, that's at first I was like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that because that's huge judgment. People are going to judge me, but that's my reality. That's what I did, and but it didn't help anything because it just caused me more stress, more anxiety, more depression. I was worried, what if I get her pregnant? Even though I was wearing protection, I'm thinking, what if I get her pregnant? What if I get an STD? But the thing is all that worry still wasn't enough for me not to do it. So I kept doing it. Another way is I tried marijuana for the first time in my life, and a lot of people are like, no big deal, it's only pot. But for me, I always prided myself in never doing any kind of drugs all my life. But after my shooting, with the self medicating, I just didn't care. I wanted everything to go away. I wanted to feel better. I wanted to numb my pain. So, I tried gummies, and then I also, smoked marijuana. And the thing is I don't even remember being high because I was always so intoxicated that. So I look back at it now and I'm like, really? So the first time I tried marijuana, I don't even remember the high because I was so drunk. It's kind of like, what a waste. At least I could have that experience. But it's it just that poor coping. And they say it's a poor coping strategy. It's not a strategy. It's self-medicating, and it did nothing but cause more worry, stress, anxiety, depression. It didn't help. It might have helped momentarily while you're doing it, but overall it didn't help at all.
So then you're already feeling like crap,
Yeah,
and then you do these things that give you immediate dopamine hits.
sure. Yeah,
They're completely not sustainable.
right.
I mean, it's not an investment like doing the hard emotional work is, which
Hmm.
sucks at the time, but over a long period of time, it's
Yeah,
extremely beneficial. So you're just doing anything to try to get through the day without feeling like crap.
yeah. It's just a quick fix.
And
Yeah,
and ultimately, within and sometimes within minutes of doing that and feeling good, you've
yeah.
got now compounded the guilt and shame because you're living outside your moral code.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the casual sex. I mean, for almost 30 days after, wondering if she's, going to get her period. What if I got her pregnant? That's kind of that knot in your stomach. You're worried. You don't know, even though you knew you were protection, but you still never know. And it's like, gosh, you got to, Adam, stop this, but it wasn't enough for me to stop. And yeah, it
Well, it's
was.
funny how alcohol too, like it drops your morals.
Oh yeah. Oh sure. Had no inhibitions. Just kind of was a totally different person. And yeah, and before my shooting, I did drink wine. I had a wine collection, but after my shooting, I went through all the bottles of wine I had, and then I went right to liquor because it got me where I wanted to go quicker. So I mean, why drink a whole bottle of wine when I can have like two, three, four, five shots of vodka or something and get there like that and feel good, or the whole freaking bottle like I would do. And um, yeah, I remember a lot of drunk texting. I mean, even my mom and dad, I would, drunk text my mom. And I remember one night I was to my mom and dad, hey, I need $50. I can't tell you why. Please put it in my bank account. And I sent it. And I realized it the next day. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't need money. And I remember calling them saying that I'm sorry, and you don't need to do that. And my mom's like, oh, your dad already put money in your account. And I'm thinking, wow, it's just not good.
Were you working at this time?
Yeah, I was still on the job. I got cleared from the shooting after about a month after my shooting and went back to work. And I kind of had a routine, that on my Friday that night I would start drinking, and coping poorly for the next couple days, and then the last day that I had off before I had to go back to work, that was kind of like my recovery day. And um, but I was, and I find it hard to believe that my colleagues didn't know that I was struggling. I think a lot of them did. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for them, but I think a lot of them did know something was going on, but they probably didn't know what to say or do, so they just decided not to get involved. And I get that. When I was a rookie cop, I was like that too. Just hey, mind your business, don't get involved. So I understand that, but yeah, I went back to work, and I wanted to go back to work. I remember a sergeant saying, "You know what, Adam, you could be done right now if you want. Just say, hey, I can't come back." And I'm like, "No, I love being a cop. This is what I want to do all my life. So I'm coming back, and I'm going to keep going."
Some jobs, like if something happens, then in comes the experts to come, and you get free counseling, you get assessed, you get diagnosed, or whatever. Here's some therapy for possible PTSD. Let's nip it in the bud. Was the police department? Was there anything like that after a shooting?
There was actually I have another patch right here. It says I see a therapist, police. Um, and I did almost immediately. I started seeing an employee assistant therapist, and then I went and saw another therapist. And it was helpful initially. I remember my first time going, I sat down and spoke to her for about 45 minutes, And while I was there talking about stuff and venting, it felt great. But then I remember leaving and thinking, you know what? That was a waste of time. She has no idea what I'm going through. So I would go to therapy, for a couple weeks, couple months, and take several months off, take the summer off, go back, get a letter in the mail saying that, hey, you missed your appointment, you need to come back. And then I'm thinking, no, I don't. You don't understand what I'm going through. I can fix this myself, which I can't. I couldn't. And even to this day, every Monday at 5 p.m., I'm sitting on a couch talking to my therapist. So I still see a therapist as, today, and it's almost been 9 years, and it's helpful. It's helpful for me. But I found out over the years that the initial therapists that I were seeing, they weren't trained in first responders. They weren't trained in officer involved shootings. And I didn't know. I thought, hey, all I got to do is go see a therapist and I'll be good. I didn't know there were special ones. There was, different therapists have different specialties. But now I'm seeing one that's great. She's very helpful, and it's just helped in my healing tremendously.
Do you think therapy, even if you see the right therapist who specializes in whatever you're going through, after a tragic event like you had, do you think you have, like, a therapist can nip it in the bud before you go through what you went through? Or do you feel you have to feel your feelings, you have to go through it, you have to go through a shit time for a bit?
With my experience, I think I just had to go through it. And I think it comes down to, you can want somebody to get better. You can want to help somebody, but if they're not ready, they're not going to do it. And yeah, I think it all comes down to the person. Like it came down to me. I'm sure the therapist that I saw wanted to help me, wanted me to get healthy, wanted the best for me. But if I'm skipping out on therapy and not getting help, and I'm not all in, it's not going to happen. I mean, they tried. Just like when I first started speaking to our employee assistance program person, they were like, okay, continue what you're doing. Eat healthy. Don't drink alcohol. Did I listen? No, I didn't listen to anything they said. Why? Because I thought I had it all under control. I thought I could take care of it. I was good to go. They didn't know me. I know me better than they do. So, but I was wrong. It's another thing that I do is I have another patch here, and I take medication every morning. I wake up in the morning, take a leak, pop a pill, Lexapro 20 milligrams right here, and a multivitamin, and it works well for me. And I'll continue to take it as long as it helps me. And going back on the seeing a therapist, sometimes you have to go through different therapists too to find the right one. I think I've been through maybe 5, and now I find one that's great, and I absolutely love her. She helps me with so many things, not only in regards to my shooting, but personal life and job stuff. And it's been really helpful. Just like the medication, I take it because it's helpful. It helps me, and I'll continue to do that. And I take Lexapro now. I've also taken venlafaxine, and I've also taken
That's what I'm on.
Vigrid. Yeah, see. But it's kind of a trial and error. You might take this pill or this kind of medication, and it doesn't work, and then you find one that works, and it's like an enlightening. Oh my gosh, this takes the edge off. This really helps, and this is the one. But it may take a few test runs to find the right one.
Knowing your personality now and looking back on life before the event, do you think you're on meds because of the event, or do you think that was just the catalyst to get you on the meds? Like, do you think meds probably would have helped you all throughout life? Like some people just need meds.
Right. It's possible. I know that after my shooting, I was very hypervigilant. I was very depressed, anxious, social anxiety, all that, and before I was, just like I said earlier, I was a goofball, a class clown, the life at the party, all that stuff. And then kind of after my shooting, I isolated myself. I was invited to a lot of things, but I just never went. I may have had plans to attend special events and go out with friends, but at the last minute, I chose not to, or I would make up some BS excuse not to go. So the shooting changed me. It changed my personality. It changed the way I view things. It really changed my thought process that, life is truly precious and it's really short. And try to find something that you really enjoy doing. Either it's a job or You set personal goals because you never know. I mean, life can be over like that. And that shooting changed me in so many ways.
So it was because of your job that this tragedy happened, but you still loved your job so much
I did.
that you came back. Like I don't think I would.
So what had happened with me is in December of 2021, I was attending an active shooter training at one of the local elementary schools, and I had a panic attack during the training. I was seated comfortably, like I am now speaking with you, and we were watching a PowerPoint presentation about the different shootings, active shooters that have occurred over the years, and they kept talking about shootings that happened in April, and that's when mine happened. So I started feeling very uncomfortable, got the knot in my stomach, started feeling very hot, and about a minute later, I went to wipe my forehead and it was drenched in water. I was sweating. I was sweating profusely. I was having a panic attack. And the first thing I could think about was I have to fight this and I have to hide it from everybody else in this room. And there was probably 20 to 30 other police officers there. And they all knew me. They all knew I was involved in a shooting. So if I would have just said, I'm having a rough time, I can't do this training, I need to leave, it would have been okay. But I think it's because of the stigma associated with that. I got to fight it, I got to hide it. And I did. I was able to continue the training and went on a couple days off. And then I went back to work and I was working a patrol shift for somebody on New Year's Eve. And I got in my squad car and I sat there briefly and I said, you know what? I quit. I ain't doing this no more. I'm done. And I don't think it was that I wanted to quit being a cop. I think I wanted to quit coping the way I've been coping over the years because it wasn't working for me anymore. So I reached out to a sergeant that I knew and I said, I need you to come with me to the chief's office. I'm quitting. I'm not doing this anymore. And he's like, hold up a second. I'll go with you. And then, we went to the chief's office and the chief and the sergeant were very supportive. They said, why don't you take a couple days off, take the weekend off. And when you're ready to come back to work, let us know. And I want to say maybe about 2 weeks had passed. And then I said, yeah, I'm ready to come back to work. So this is in January. And the chief said, in order for you to come back, you need to have a psychological evaluation, fit for duty test. And I said, absolutely. I'm all for it. I'm a strong mental health advocate. I had been speaking about my shooting, 3 years after in 2019, I started speaking. So I'm thinking, let's go. I have no problem doing that. And I scheduled the appointment and the psych evaluation was scheduled for 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. one day. And I remember when I'm driving there, I'm
Did you say
telling my
9 a.m. till 4?
yeah, it was multiple assessment, all kinds of yeah, it was pretty long. No lunch either, so I was
Oh,
pretty hungry at the end. But
I'm just angry. I'm not mentally ill.
yeah, right, yeah. And so I was driving there, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to lie. I'm going to try to beat this test. I'm going to lie about all this, and I'm going to beat it because I'm fine. I can go back to work, so I'm going to lie. So then I get there and I'm sitting in the waiting room and I'm thinking about this, fit for duty test. And I'm like, you know what, Adam, the only way that you're going to get better is if you are honest. You have to be honest. That's what this is all about. You're not going to get healthier. You're not going to get better if you don't be honest. So I chose to be honest. And after the evaluation, I was deemed unfit for duty. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, PTSD, acute stress with dissociative features, and I was unfit for duty. And this patch right here kind of says it all. And eventually, I was terminated. But once I got that unfit for duty, I have the whole examination here printed out. I remember reading through it, and I started crying because it was an answer to so many questions over the years of why I was acting the way I was, who I was now, and now I wanted to get better. I read this, and now it's time to get better. So I submitted a 90-day leave of absence to the police department, which was agreed to, which was granted, and then I was seeing the police department psychologist 2-3 days a week, really focusing on getting better. And even the psychologist said, Adam, I see no reason why you probably can't go back to work in August. We'll just keep working on this. So he even recommended a 6-month short-term disability, which I never received workers' compensation for. I received no money for that, which was frustrating because I thought, I pay thousands of dollars a year after year after year for my health insurance to help me during a time like this. and then I'm struggling right now and I can't get any money. So I had to file for unemployment. So while I was trying to get healthier, I had to go through the unemployment process of applying for other jobs just so I can get like a measly $300 a week, which absolutely sucked because you know, I eventually had to file bankruptcy because I could never catch up on my bills. But what happened is after my leave of absence was approved a couple months later, I was placed on a safety plan, and I have it right here. And because there were some indications of suicidal ideations in my psychological evaluation, and and I'm okay with that. It's important. I don't hold a grudge on anybody, but this was a real big deal to me because for years as a police officer, I'm always there for other people when they need help, when they're on a safety plan. Now it's me, and it's different when you're going through it. It just is. And what made it even more challenging is shortly after that, one of the sergeants from the police department came out to my house and gave me a written order to immediately cease and desist speaking about my personal mental health when it comes about my shooting. Now, I had been speaking about my shooting since 2019, and it had been fine. But now all of a sudden, they basically say, shut up or you're going to be disciplined or terminated. And it even says right here, this letter is an official order to you instructing you to immediately cease and desist in the dissemination of personal testimonies regarding your mental health experiences, which reflect on the police department. More specifically, April 8th, 2016, where you were involved in a deadly force situation that ended a citizen's life. I had been doing that since 2019, speaking about my mental health, reaching out to other police officers, reaching out to hundreds of police officers. And now all of a sudden I get this order saying that if you don't knock it off, you're going to be disciplined or terminated. So
Jesus.
I didn't know what to do. I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to? I'm trying to get better so I can go back to work. So my 90-day leave of absence expired, and I went in and met with the chief. And the chief and the sergeant that actually gave me this order were in the office, and they were professional. They were cordial, asking me how I'm doing and everything. And then the chief told me that we're not extending your leave of absence. You can either resign or you're going to be terminated. And I thought to myself, this is work related. I'm not quitting. What do you mean I'm going to be terminated? And so I thought it over and I chose not to quit. So I was terminated, and I have a termination letter here. And it even, it says, we wish you well in your future endeavors and appreciates your time with the police department. But after that meeting, I was walked into my detective office and carried out all my personal belongings, and that was it. I had been at that police department for 14 years. I had never been disciplined. I had never been suspended. I received awards, one of the highest awards on the police department. I received awards through the police association, through from state senators, you name it. And now all of a sudden I'm getting walked out. I feel like they just washed their hands of me. I remember pulling out of the police department's parking lot in my Jeep, and I'm thinking, what now? And nobody even checked on me after. What if I would have went home and killed myself? Everybody knew I loved being a cop. Everybody knew as far back as I can remember I wanted to be an ERCAR man, a cop. And now, after 14 years of working there, I was terminated. And I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. So it's just upsetting. I can't even.
I'm upset for you. I'm like,
yeah, it's upsetting because
get a lawyer and sue their balls off.
I love these guys and gals I worked with. We went to life and death calls together. They knew my family. They knew my kids. They helped me move. We had really professional and personal conversations. We knew each other, but they completely ghosted me. To this day, it's been almost 3 years. No texts, no calls, no emails. It's like I don't exist. And I'm thinking, were those friendships real? It really, really hurts because I loved working there. I love them. They were like a second family. And now it's like they're non-existent. I really feel like they just washed their hands of me and said, Adam's not our problem anymore. And that was it.
And did you get a lawyer or anything? Or
I didn't know. No.
Oh my God. This sounds.
A lot of people had mentioned I should do that. And I just, I chose not to. What happened is I moved 3.5, 4 hours away into my sister's basement. We always joke, hey, at least it ain't mom and dad's basement. But um, my sister Amy is a true blessing because she saw at the time that I wasn't seeing a therapist and I wasn't on medication at the time, and that I needed help. And behind my back, which I don't have any problems with, she found a therapist, the one I see today, and that got me healthy, which ultimately got me back into law enforcement, which I'm a police captain right now.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you weren't on meds yet when all that
I
happened.
the police department psychologist took me off meds because there
Jesus.
was a time that I was seeing things that weren't there, hearing things that weren't there, smelling things that weren't there, and they thought the medication I was on at the time it may be a negative side effect. So yeah, so probably for several months I was on nothing. Slowly weaned me off, so I wouldn't have any real withdrawals. But slowly weaned me off, and when I moved down by my sister, I wasn't on anything. But she found a therapist. I got back into therapy. I got back onto medicine, and then I got healthy. I got a lot healthier. And after I was terminated, I never thought that I'd even want to be a cop anymore. With all the everything that I went through, it was over for me. I'm thinking, what else am I going to do? All I know is being a cop. I went to school, I went to training, I went to military, I went to college. Everything was law enforcement. So what am I going to do now? And I tried. I think I had like 5 different jobs. I was struggling. Nothing was close to being a cop, which I absolutely love doing. I love helping people. I care for people, even complete strangers. It's just who I am. But I got healthier. I got a lot healthier. And after about a year, I thought, I'm gonna apply. I'm gonna apply at police departments. And what I did was a former girlfriend at the time. She asked me to promise to send out 50 applications, state applications, cover letters, and resumes to police departments in the area. So I found about 50 agencies within a 30-minute area of where I was living, and I did that. And the next day, police departments were calling me. They wanted to interview me in person or over the telephone. And there was a 2-week period where 3 police departments in 3 different counties offered me jobs. So I had to pick. I'm like, wow, I'm healthier now. People still want me because, quite frankly, the thought of sitting in an interview, hey, why'd you leave your last agency? Well, I had mental health stuff and then I was fired. Who the heck's going to hire me? So that's what I'm thinking. But I got healthy and now I'm like, wow, people want me. This is great. I still want to be a cop because I'm healthier now. I want to do it. And I picked the agency I'm with now, and Chief Sean McGee is my chief, and he's great. He's supportive. I started off the interview right away. Hey, I want to talk about this because you're going to find out about what happened to me in the background. He supported me. Our police department has a lake patrol, so we're out on a boat, the chief and I, one day, and he goes, I know you speak about your mental health. I support you. If you want to keep doing that, do that. You can even wear your uniform if you want to. And I'm like, wow, this guy really gets it. He's really supportive, and that's great. Almost, gosh, within the first year, maybe I was promoted to captain, which is second in command of the police department. So I was like, wow, I still have it. And deep down, I knew I still did. I had the passion to still be a cop, and I had a lot of training and experience that I know would be helpful for other police officers. But until I got healthy, none of that mattered. And I really needed to do that. One of the things that I do now is I'm a certified peer specialist in the state of Wisconsin. And I go around and I speak, share my experience, my story with others. But then I also can speak with other first responders, mainly police officers. And it's nice because they get it. I understand what they're going through and vice versa. And shortly after I went back to work, I met a police officer who was involved in a shooting. And I remember meeting him for the first time, and I'm thinking, he's just like me. He gets it. I can talk to them about what I'm going through, and they just understand it. I don't have to speak and then explain everything. They just get it. So then when I found out that I could be a peer specialist, I went through the training, I took the state test, and I absolutely love doing it. I don't charge for it. I don't get paid. I do it because I love doing it. Because of that experience, I want to be there for other people. That's why I share my experience, to let people know it's okay to talk about your mental health. You're not alone. Don't suffer in silence. There's all kinds of resources out there for you. And that's why I'm here talking to you today, Todd, because there's so many of us out there struggling.
I love how people from Wisconsin say my name. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I mean, you being a peer support specialist,
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You get just as much out of it as they do, right? It's
Yeah.
all part of your healing. But
When I tested and when I went to the training to become a certified peer specialist, I thought it was great because I think there was like 16 of us from all different walks of life, from all different professions. I mean, there were addicts, there were alcoholics, there were felons, I was the only police officer, and it was great because not only did it open my eyes to what they've gone through, but it opened their eyes to me being a cop, because they're like, yeah, I never thought I would see a cop differently now, but now that I know you and what you go through, and I'm like, that's what it's all about. If we could just knock down those walls and get to know each other, I mean, that's so important.
it's just about being humans.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Man.
Yep.
And like that whole time period that you're talking about, I mean, there was the whole Black Lives Matter and defund the police and all that stuff. That must have been incredibly difficult, but also, like you said, validating and eye-opening for other people. And, and like even talking about your old chief there and what happened there, it really does show, because I've had a lot of jobs and a lot of places I've worked, they really, mental health, this, mental health, that, we really support you. But when push comes to shove, it's all bullshit.
And right. And the thing is to go back a little bit, the chief that I had the meeting with where I was ultimately terminated, that was a different chief than the chief that was with me during my shooting. The chief during my shooting, Chief Cal Smokowitz, he was great. He was supportive. Almost immediately, he reached out to the media and said he supported me. And when I heard that, I found a quote in one of the newspapers, and I actually have it here in a frame. And what I did was I printed it out, I put it in a frame, and I sat it on my desk because, you know, if you're having a real crappy day, but you know your boss supports you, that means so much. And I knew the chief supported me because I would hear him speak highly of me, defend me when he didn't know I was there. I could have been around the corner, and I was like, oh, he's talking about me. And then I hear what he's saying, and I'm like, he's not BSing. He really does truly support me. So that means a lot. And if you're a supervisor or you're just a colleague, if you say you're going to be supportive of somebody, be supportive. You can't just say it and not do it. Because if that's the case, people aren't going to reach out for help. Because if they know it's all BS, they're going to try to fix it themselves. They're not going to reach out for help. And that's why so many people now are dying by suicide, because they feel like they have no other, they can't turn to anybody.
They feel validated because they say something, and then when push comes to shove, they're like, "Oh, that's all BS. It's all trendy crap." And
sure. And as a police officer, all my life I wanted to be a cop, right? So I've worked hard. Finally, I'd be a police officer. I'm a police officer for umpteen years, and not just me, but many people. If they know that, hey, I'm struggling, I need to reach out, but I can't because I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my livelihood. I have a boat and a house and a wife and kids. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it if they know that they're going to lose everything that they work so hard for. It just
perpetuates the stigma and everything else.
Absolutely. That's why we got to stop the stigma. I truly believe that stigma is always going to be there. I really believe it will be, but it's getting so much better. But it's that stigma. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it just goes to show too, like the culture of any workplace, it really starts at the top. Mm-hmm. It trickles down, that culture.
Yep.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I've worked at places that talk the talk and walk the walk, but it is really disappointing that, it's all very trendy and people just say stuff, but
right.
Back to the shooting a little bit. I'm curious if you ever met the lady's family, or if you ever had any interactions, or if it's very, because I know that a lot of people get healing through that too.
Right. I haven't. That's something I really want to do. I really, truly want to meet. Her name was Melissa, instead of just saying her. Her name was Melissa. I truly want to meet Melissa's family, Melissa's mom, Melissa's dad. Yeah, I do. I'm not I'm not a monster. I'm not a bad guy. My former chief told me that Melissa's grandpa, I believe it was, called the police department asking if I was okay because he knew how she could be. I do think it would help the healing process. And maybe they never want to meet me, and that's fine because it's been almost 9 years. But I do, and I I would really like to meet her family and sit down and talk, and and maybe they hate me, and maybe they'll continue to hate me, and but I still think it would be productive. I think it would be healthy for all of us. Even if they're willing to do a virtual meeting, that's better than nothing. I mean, even if they would just consider it, even if they would say, hey, the officer who killed your daughter would like to talk or meet, just consider it. I mean, and if you choose not to, I mean, I understand. I mean, I don't know how I would feel. I think I would be very upset, obviously, but I don't know exactly how I would feel if somebody killed one of my two daughters. I don't know if I'd want to meet them. Um, but it's something that I've thought about for many years, and I don't know how to make that happen, but it is something that I would like to do someday.
I like that. You are self aware enough to know that like the ball's in their court. Like this isn't.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah, because the family did sue me, did file a
Oh, okay.
lawsuit against me, the police department, the chief, Walmart, a bunch of other entities. But then after a year, they dropped the lawsuit against me and the police department. And then it's my understanding that they just went directly after Walmart. Some people say because it's deep pockets. I don't know, but I remember getting served at work, and yeah, it was. I kind of figured I was going to be sued, but after a year, the lawsuit was dropped, and then that was it. So we didn't have to pay out even a penny.
If that was my family, I would also consider, or maybe they did anyway, the institution that the lady was in, because like,
Seeing a lot of people even ask me if I would consider suing them too, because of their actions. It led to me having to shoot her, and I was like, no, I did my job. I'm not pursuing anything. I'm done. I just did my job. I'm going back to work. I'm gonna live my life, and yeah,
fair enough. I'm sure they're going through their own guilt and their own.
yeah. I can only
Yeah,
imagine.
that police department that you were in when that happened. What were the numbers of officer shootings? Was this very rare?
I was the very first shooting in the history of the police department.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think they did a good job initially with supporting me, but I was the very first shooting in the history of the police department. Yeah,
Sounds like a very small, tight knit community,
yeah,
and I guess that's you felt that much more betrayed when you were let go.
yeah. I feel it hurts. I feel abandoned. I feel like it's hard to put into words. I mean, there's a lot of emotions involved in that. It's hard to put into words because I loved working there. I wish I was still working there. Um, all everything that I went through ended up being a blessing in disguise. I mean, I'm truly happy where I am now and what I'm doing with raising awareness with mental health and being a peer specialist and being a captain at the police department now. But it still hurts. It's still sad. I think about it from time to time. And
Are you still in your sister's basement?
no, no, I have my own place now, so
Oh,
that's
good.
good. Yeah, the brick wall behind me isn't the basement wall, so
Do you have any like? Do you have a book? Are you working on a book?
I am working on my own book, a book that there's 21 authors in a book, and I wrote one of the chapters, and they're basically sharing my experience. That's coming out next week on the 27th,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
it's called Take Back Your Power. It's you can buy it on Amazon.
So it's like an anthology of people.
Yeah, different stories, different experiences, and I got a copy just the other day, and the unboxing, and I looked at it, and I'm like, wow, this has really happened. It's still, I never thought I'd be on podcasts, never thought I'd be sharing my experience the way I am now. I knew that I wanted to help people by sharing what I went through, but I didn't realize how it was truly going to be. I guess you don't know until you start doing it, but I know I'm helping people, and that's what it's all about. I had spoke in a training conference one time, and I was really excited to go there because it was hours away from the police department I worked at. So I'm like, nobody's going to know me. This is great. So then I go down there, and it's like everybody from up north where I worked was attending this conference. And I'm thinking, great, everybody knows me, so that just added to the nervousness. Then I started speaking and sharing my experience. And, I always hope that it resonates with somebody. And then I'm driving home and I get a text message from a female jailer that was there. And she said, thank you so much for sharing your experience. My boyfriend, who's also a jailer, his dad died and he's going through a tough time right now. And you really helped kind of connect the dots with some of the stuff he's going through. And that was great. That's what it's all about. I mean, there was another time where I had spoken at an in-service at a sheriff's department, very close to the police department that my shooting happened. And I was sitting at home one morning having coffee, and a therapist reached out and said, you don't know me, but a police officer came in and saw me today because he heard you speak the other day and thought it was time for him to get help. And I'm like, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And, because this is triggering. Me sharing my experience with you is triggering. It's also therapeutic. It's helpful for me. But it's not easy. There's many times where I think, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to hang it up. I'm done. But then you get messages like that. And it's like, no, it's helping people. And then how many other people does it help that don't reach out to you?
Right.
It truly is about wanting to stop that stigma, reaching out and helping other people by just simply sharing my experience. It's like, here's what I went through. I know I'm not the only one. That's why I'm so transparent about it, so people can relate. When I talked about abusing alcohol, I just didn't say I had some vodka. No, I drank this whole thing in less than 30 minutes. That's a lot different than having a couple shots. That's why I'm so transparent and so descriptive of what I go through, because then people can relate to it. For some people, abusing alcohol is having a 6-pack of beer. That's not what I did. It's truly helping people, and I'm grateful for being on your podcast. It just really means a lot to me.
I'm grateful you reached out. It's I relate to everything you're saying. Again, it's the same way. It is hard. I mean, and it's funny because you could do 20 talks in a row,
yep,
and it not affect you, but for whatever reason, the 21st one, it is triggering all over again.
Oh yeah,
and people don't realize, but yeah,
it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength to share your experience. And you're right. You could do 20 talks and the 21st one really gets to you. And, when I first started doing this, after I would speak, I'd go binge eat something. I'd hit up McDonald's or I'd order a large pizza, and just because I'm an emotional eater, and that would help me cope. Now I do healthy stuff. I go for a walk, or I have, something healthy to eat. But you're absolutely right. You can go. And then all of a sudden this one time it really gets you, and you can tell it's getting you. You may not understand why, but you're absolutely right.
Brains are weird.
Oh, yeah. I just want people to know that it's okay to talk about your mental health. You're not alone. Please don't suffer in silence. There's so many resources out there. There's so many people out there that want to help you, that care about you, and not just because they're getting paid to do it. When I went back to work after my shooting, I met a lot of people in the community, and a lot of people came up to me, and complete strangers, and I didn't know who they were. And they told me, we prayed for you. Can I give you a hug? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a hugger. Yeah, that's great. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, wow, I don't even know these people. They're complete strangers, but they wanted me to be okay. They prayed for me. They wanted me to be okay. And it's because of who they are. It's not because they were getting paid to do it. So there's so many resources out there. And if you can't reach out, technology is great. Send a text message, send an email, make a phone call. If you can't do the face-to-face thing, even if you don't get what you're going through, the simple text, I'll say, hey, Todd, I don't get what's going on. I'm really struggling right now. I need some help. Can you help me? There's people out there that will. And if you know somebody's struggling, do the same thing. Throughout the years, I got text messages from people, and I would read the text message and kind of think, yeah, whatever. But I still knew that somebody was there and somebody cared about me. And that really means a lot. Even if they don't say it does. They know that somebody's there. And so please reach out if you're struggling, or if you know somebody that is. It's so helpful.
Thank you so very much for that, Adam. I know it wasn't easy for you, and I know that you're doing wonderful things by telling your story. It's very easy to paint things black and white when, in fact, there's a lot of gray area. So I'm so honored that you reached out and that we did this episode. If you like this episode, please remember to like and rate and review and share. You can also go into the show notes, and there's a link there to my website, www.bunnyhugspodcast.com, where I have links to all my socials, media stuff. There's merch. There's information about my speaking engagements. You could buy me a coffee. I love coffee. I would love for you to do that, and there's other stuff on the website too. Thank you to the Believe Podcast Network and my friend Carey. Thank you so much for all the help and work you do, and thank you for listening. Until next time, please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.